Welcome back to the Poker Vlog. This is episode number 83, and for this one, we play 5-5, no limit. It's an uncapped game at the Texas Card House in Austin, Texas. I'm up here in Northern California. I don't think I want to do this intro from here anymore. Here we go. This is much better. I'm in Barcelona, Spain. I'm here for next couple days. Probably gonna try and fit in a poker session at some point. But hope you guys enjoy the meetup game video. I get into a ton of insane hands, and I think you're gonna like it a lot. Let's go ahead and get started. It's a packed house with 7 games of 5-5, no limit Texas Hold'em going on, it's uncapped, and it can get wild here depending on who's playing. Each table is its own beast. Last time I was here, there was a maniac under the gun straddling for either $100 or his whole stack up to $500. Naturally, I couldn't beat him, and I got stuck at $2,000 in the first half hour. I'm looking to have a better start this time around. I buy in for $1,000 plus $20 in tipping chips, then I take my seat. I'm card dead for the first hour, then I pick up ace-jack suited in the cutoff, under the gun +1 limps in. I raise to 25, the small blind calls, the under the gun +1 player calls as well, 3 of us see the flop. It comes jack-10 deuce with 2 clubs, both players check. I bet 50, the small blind folds, but the other player isn't giving up, he makes the call. The turn is the 8 of spades, under the gun +1 checks, I check back for pot control. The river is the 8 of diamonds, under the gun +1 checks again. Feeling good about my hand, the opponent shouldn't have checked a straight twice or trip 8s on the river. I get ready, aim, and I fire for 150. It's a big bet in relation to the pot. I'm hoping it'll look like I missed a flush draw and I'm trying to buy it. The opponent makes the call, I turn over ace-jack, and it's good. We scoop our first real pot of the night. I switch tables and pick up pocket queens under the gun. I raise to 25. Under the gun +2 calls. Ebony Kenny calls in the cutoff. The small blind calls. 4 of us see the flop. The dealer puts out King-10 deuce with a suit, the small blind checks. I've got second pair and 3 opponents. I don't want to inflate the pot with a medium strength hand. I check, so do the rest of the players. I may have the lead. The turn is the jack of diamonds, the small blind checks. I bet 60. I'm probably best, but even if I'm not, I'm drawn to the nuts. The opponents all let their hands go, we take it down. The whole table's ecstatic that I won the pot, and they insist that we celebrate with a cheers. Next, we play a double board bomb pot. Everyone puts in $25 each. There's 225 in the middle before the hands are even dealt. We go straight to a flop, and there are 2 separate boards. You have to win both in order to scoop the entire thing. If you just win one, then you'll split it. I'm on the button, and I'm dealt 10-5 suited. The top board is Queen-7-5 with 2 clubs. We've got the low pair on that one. The bottom board is Ace-9-8 with 2 spades. We've got the flush draw and a backdoor straight draw. Checks to the player under the gun +1. He bets 100. Ebony calls from under the gun +2. I consider raising since I have a piece on both boards. Instead I call, and the small blind also calls. 4 of us see the turns. The dealer puts out the jack of spades on the top board and the jack of hearts on the bottom board. I wish he would have switched those so that I could have drilled the flush. I do pick up a straight draw at least, but other than that, those turns didn't help me much. Under the gun +1 leads for 225 this time. Really doesn't seem to be too scared. Should have a very strong hand after betting flop with 8 other players involved, and then leading turn when 3 players called him on the previous street. Ebony now announces that she's all in. I ask for a count. It's 1,095. It's tempting, but all I have is a pair of 5s on one board and 10 high on the other board, with only 1 card to come. It's too much money for me to call off, only having draws that aren't even to the nuts. I let it go. The small blind jams and shows me pocket 7s. He has a set on one board. On the gun +1 reluctantly goes all in. The pot has gotten massive. Let's see some rivers. The top one is the ace of diamonds. The bottom river is the 7 of spades. Small blind ends up having a set on both boards. Ebony shows Queen-10 offsuit and has a straight on the bottom board with a pair of queens on the top board. She wins half the pot. I would have made the flush on the bottom board and won half the pot instead if I had stuck around. Ebony had me crushed going into the river though, so I would have been a huge underdog if I had called. I head over to the third table and pick up King-10 of diamonds on the button. The cutoff opens at 20. He should have a wide range. I 3-bet to 70 and take it down. Here, we're in the big blind with 10-9 of diamonds. It's a straddle pot. cutoff opens at 25. Let me go ahead and 3-bet this again. I make it 85. Folds through, we win another one uncontested. Later we pick up 10-9 offsuit in the small blind. We're doing a double board bomb pot for 25 each. This table's 10-handed, so there's 250 in the middle. The top board is 9 deuce deuce, and the bottom board is king queen 10. We've got pieces on both boards. There's so many opponents though, we don't want to lead out. I check. It ends up checking around. The turn on the top is the 6 of clubs. Shouldn't have changed much. The turn on the bottom is the 7 of hearts, so there are 2 hearts now. Checks to the button. He's a good thinking player, but he's been having a rough go of it in this session and stuck quite a bit. He fires for 125. My thought is that he might be trying to steal this. If he had a 9 or a deuce, he probably would have bet flop after it was checked to him, so I almost definitely have him beat on that board. The second board I may be behind on. Either way, my hand is very much under-repped, given that I have a piece on both boards and have checked twice. I call, the big blind also calls. I mainly put him on a draw for the bottom board, but still think my 9 is good on top. 3 of us see the rivers. For the top board, it's the 5 of spades, which shouldn't have changed too much, except 8-7 now makes it straight. For the bottom board, it's the ace of diamonds. All heart draws miss, and any jack now makes it straight on that board. My read is that my pair of 9s on top is best, but I'm probably not good on bottom. I don't want to have to call a big bet to hopefully chop the pot, so I lead big, betting 600. My thought is that it's mostly a free roll to scoop the entire thing. This is on the basis that my 9 is good on top. I want better hands to fold on the bottom board. It's going to be extremely difficult for somebody to call 600 without a jack, so I could potentially get some higher 1-pair hands or even 2-pair hands on that board to fold. Even if someone has a jack, they almost certainly won't have jack 9 or jack deuce to scoop the whole thing, so I'm chopping anyway if they call. The big blind lets his hand go, the button goes into the tank. He goes through his thought process out loud, and it sounds like he has me beat on at least 1 board, potentially even 2 based on what he says, so I'm hoping for a fold.
I'm just trying to figure out a hand that I feel like I can actually talk to. I mean, you have a jack, so that's why you're doing that. But if you don't have, I mean, you need jack 9, which you would bet on the turn, or jack deuce. Otherwise, I win.
Oh god, he wins if I don't have jack deuce or jack 9? This is not good, and it's a major sweat.
I guess you win, man. I didn't think you'd have a 9.
7 and 9.
So I win. I win both. That's sick.
The unthinkable happens, and I get called by 9-7, which I have beat on both boards to scoop the entire thing. The big blind later tells me that he folded king 7 for 2-pair on the bottom board, so my plan worked out even better than I imagined. Got the best hand to fold in order to avoid the split pot, and I managed to get extra value out of one of the few holdings that might consider calling. I'm in shock that I'm able to win all of it. I'm currently up over 1100 on the night. A few orbits later, I'm dealt ace-king offsuit in the small blind. On the gun +2 opens at 25. Player in middle position makes the call. I 3-bet to 115. The big blind cold calls, says he wants to make the vlog. On the gun +2 calls, as does the middle position player. 4 of us are seeing the flop. The pot already has nearly $1,000 in it, and we're out of position. We're gonna need to drill something here. The flop is ace-8-5 rainbow. What a dream. There are no draws to be concerned about, and no 2-pair hands that are plausible. There's a tiny chance we're losing to a set of 8s or 5s, but we essentially have the nuts. I lead for 250, hoping that anybody with a smaller ace will make the call. The big blind puts in chips, the other players fold, we're heads up. I want the dealer to put out another low card. He's a nice guy and puts out the deuce of clubs. I almost couldn't have asked for a better one. If I was ahead on the flop, I should still be ahead. I bet 475. The player thinks for a little while, then makes the call. There's almost $2,000 in the pot. We both started the hand pretty deep, so the opponent has $1,000 left in his stack. Once again, I'm hoping for a low card. The river is the 7 of spades. It's another good one. It's very tough for me to be beat in this situation once he cold calls a 3-bet pre-flop. Generally, I'm not looking to get it in with 1 pair for almost 400 big blinds, but I'm confident that I've either got the same hand as my opponent or I've got him beat. So under these circumstances, I want to put pressure on him. I rip it in for $1,000 effective, and now the tanking begins. I don't get snap called, so I'm extremely relieved. The player considers his options for a full 4 minutes.
I'll make your vlog too if I coach. That's too many.
To be fair, you're gonna make the vlog no matter what.
The then calls the clock on himself, which you don't see that often.
Oh, this player has 50 10 to X. Yeah, I have.
Ultimately, he makes the correct decision and he folds ace-queen offsuit face up. I don't want him to be in agony, so I show as well.
Oh. How do you bet that though?
Because you almost got.
We win a huge pot for 5-5, but if I'd gotten called, it would have been the biggest 5-5 pot I've ever won. Never won one over $3,700 in a $5 big blind game. It's a great day anyway. I'm up $2,100. Soon after, I'm dealt pocket 10s under the gun +2. I open to 25. The player to my left calls, the small blind and the big blind call. 4 of us see the flop. It's ace-8-7 with 2 spades. We all check. The turn is the 9 of hearts, giving me the open-ended straight draw. Small blind leads for only $25. The big blind folds. There's no need to do anything other than call here. That's what I do. The player to my left folds. It's heads up. The river's a 6. We make the second nuts. Small blind leads for 55. I'm going to bump it up. I make it 205. Not expecting to get called, but I'm pleasantly surprised. The player calls and shows ace-queen. That's not going to be good enough. The dealer pushes us to the pot. We head to our 4th and final table of the night. The dynamics here are interesting. There are several regs, several players with 700 big blinds or more in front of them. Some of these opponents are not afraid to apply maximum pressure, put people in extremely tough spots. In this one, I pick up king-queen suited under the gun +1 and open to 25. The hijack with a stack of over $6,000, 3 bets to 80. I'm not folding suited Broadway cards, I call. We're heads up and the flop is king 9-4 with 2 diamonds. We've got top pair, good kicker, I check. The hijack bets 125, not going to fold here, I make the call. Dealer puts out the 7 of spades on the turn, I check, and the hijack checks back. I almost definitely have the best hand. The river is another 4, I bet 210 for value. The hijack makes the call, king queen is a winner, we're running great, and are up $2,800. Here we're dealt pocket 8s in the small blind, it's a straddle pot, the hijack opens at 35. I call, the big blind calls, 3 of us go to the flop, it's king 6-4, we all check. The turn is the 7 of spades, I might have the lead, and I want to deny equity. I also have the straight draw, so I bet 65. The big blind folds, the hijack raises to 165. I'm not sure what he's saying he has after checking the flop. I suppose he could have pocket kings, 7s, or maybe he has a flush draw. I've seen this guy bluff in a few other hands, so I'm not laying this down. I call. The river is the ace of hearts, not my favorite card because I'm now losing to all ace-high flush draws. I check, he checks back, I turn over the 8s, they are no good. The opponent has king 10 and takes it down. You know what one of my favorite things is? Getting dealt 2 cards that are marked with the letter K. Player in middle position opens to 30. I'm going to make it more. I 3-bet to 105. The hijack is not a fan of money. He goes all in for 225 total. Folds to me. I call. The board runs out king 3 deuce, 9-8. We scoop the pot. We play another double board bomb pot shortly after. I have king 7 offsuit in middle position. The first flop is queen jack 7 with 2 spades, and the second is king 10-4 with 2 hearts. I've got a pair on both boards. On the gun +1 bets 125. I call, the cutoff calls, and the big blind calls. The turns are the ace of diamonds and the queen of clubs. All 4 of us check. The rivers are a 4 and a deuce. The big blind checks. On the gun +1 bets 400. I consider calling because I may be able to chop. There are a few other players involved though, so I let it go. Cutoff folds, and the big blind calls. They end up splitting it. The big blind has pocket 7s for a set on one board. On the gun +1 has king jack for a higher pair on both boards than I had. In the last big hand I play, I'm dealt pocket jacks under the gun +2. Under the gun opens to 20. In an ordinary game where people have between 100 and 300 big blinds, I may just flat, but since everybody's playing super deep, I don't want to flat and let people in relatively cheaply. I make it 70. Folds back to the under the gun player. He calls. We're heads up. The flop comes 7-6-3 with 2 diamonds. Under the gun checks. I bet 80. Under the gun thinks about it for a while, then makes the call. The turn is the best card ever. It's the jack of hearts. We drill top set. Under the gun checks. I make it 215. The player calls again. It seems like he might have queens, 10s, 9s, 8s, or potentially a flush draw. The river is the 8 of clubs. The flush draw bricks. Some straights get there, but I don't put any straight draws in his range. He checks. I fire big for 650. I want to make it look like I missed a flush. He shouldn't be able to fold queens or 8s for that amount, and it'd be tough for him to call anything with a busted flush draw, 10s or 9s. He lets it go. I win one more medium-sized pot before racking up. Wild session here. It's 12:30, so we played for just under 6.5 hours. Ran cold in the beginning, but ran amazing in the middle and towards the end and stuff. I ended up winning 29.60, so just under 3K. Had a really good night. We had 7 tables of 5-5 going, which is crazy. A lot of people showed up, so that's super cool. Tomorrow we're doing $150 tournament, and we'll be playing some 2-3 once we bust the tournament probably. So not sure if I'm gonna do a video of that, but just excited to have a good night tonight. The next night, Andrew and I head back for our first ever Meetup game tournament. It's a $150 buy-in. There's a $100 bounty on my head and Andrew's. We crushed the 5K guarantee by more than 4 times with a prize pool of $22,000. We got an amazing turnout. Even the legend, Brian Stafford, shows up. Everyone started with 15K in chips. I run my stack up to over 230K with just 18 people left. 15 people get paid, and I have well over average stack. It's more than $6,000 for first. If you've seen my stats video, you know that I don't play tournaments very often, so I'm very excited to make it this far. In this hand, I pick up pocket queens under the gun +2, and I open to 30K. The player on my immediate left snap shoves for piles. He has me covered. There's still 6 players left in the hand when he does this, and 2 of those players have him covered. He's a tight player. I haven't seen this guy 3-bet once the whole tournament, and this seems like an extremely odd time to do it as a bluff. Folds back to me. As I mentioned earlier, I have well over average stack. I don't really need to take risks here. Seems like I'm flipping or I'm crushed, so I'm not excited to get involved.
Okay, nice hand, man.
You want to show?
My heart completely sinks when he shows the jacks. Didn't expect him to do that at all with that hand. I'm especially not excited to show on the blog that I made the incorrect laydown this deep in the tournament. I had to kind of regroup. Still, I'm in great shape to coast into the money and probably make several pay jumps. We go a few more orbits and no one busts. It's getting frustrating. It's break time. Then we come back with 10.5 big blinds. The first hand of the new level, I'm dealt pocket jacks onto the gun. I feel like I played that queen's hand too timidly. I don't want to make the same mistake, particularly in a tournament that's only $150 buy-in. I rip it in. My boy, who 3-bet shoved with the pocket jacks in the hand before, makes the call that one of the other biggest stacks at the table calls behind him. I know that I'm not in good shape. This is the worst feeling ever. I played for hours, ran up a big stack, made an incorrect laydown, then get it in and get called in 2 spots, knowing that at least one of them probably has me crushed. Only 3 people need to bust before the money. Why couldn't I have just folded?
It's be interesting.
So
Yeah, if I bubble this is gonna be rough.
Queens.
I did fold queens. I 100% folded queens. If I make a video of this, you'll see.
The other players didn't go all in, so there could potentially be a side pot, and I don't know what I'm up against yet. The flop doesn't give me a set, and it turns out I'm up against pocket queens and pocket kings.
Oh, that is so crazy.
2 rounds. Jack 1 time.
The turn is no help. Let me use my 1 time here, please. Nope.
There we go. Wow, that's rough.
I don't think I have him.
And
Count this over here.
we are out.
There's 40 here.
I think
I'll just let you know.
I'm pretty certain we busted 2 or 3 away from the money. At least that's what I thought. I find out multiple people were all in and lost at the other table, and I get some great news.
Okay, I might have some chance I made the money here. We'll see.
Well,
The player with kings wins my bounty. It's too bad that I busted, but something fantastic has occurred.
Turns out I made the money. I got 15th.
Hold on.
No, I did not. I'm the bubble boy. This is bad news. We are just getting this in right now. This is real time.
Oh, you're in the bubble?
All right. Congratulations, everybody. You're all in the money.
Thank you, bubble boy.
I apparently busted in 16th place on the Stone Cold Bubble.
tournament players on making the money tonight, and to Brad for being the bubble boy.
That's about as painful as it gets. So I fold queens pre-flop, and the guy shows jacks, and then didn't really want to make the same mistake again. I just ripped it with jacks, and get called by queens and kings. Maximum pain for the vlogs. Maximum pain. See you, man. Good seeing you too. That's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons. It helps out the channel a ton. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to let me know in the comment section. I'm happy to get back to you. I want to give a big thanks to Texas Card House for having us out there, and for everybody who showed up. We had a great time, and cash game went well, but obviously that tournament was about as brutal as a $150 tournament gets. Congratulations to Brian Jensen. He took down the first ever Meetup game tournament, so good job to him. If you guys are interested in coming to one of our future Meetup games, I'll have some information down below in the description box. The next one is going to be at Grayton in Northern California on February 23rd, so it'll be Saturday at 2 p.m. We'll be playing 3-5, no limit Texas Hold'em, and the list is already up for that, so you can call into Grayton and put yourself on there. Anyway, hope you're all doing well. Good luck at the tables. I'll see you guys next time.